All right. Hello, everyone. Looks like we are live for this Facebook Live question and answer session here at Club 1040. And I hope you are able to join us this day, first Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. That is our new time to kind of give our friends an update of things that have been happening. If you obviously a lot of the things that we do we can't share publicly, but we do partnership. What your prayers, what your participation with this club is producing. And so, if you don't know me, my name is Ronnie Elliott. I am the national director of Club 1040. Matt and Julie Beamer, who are normally hosting our Facebook live question and answer monthly session, they are in a security sensitive nation and cannot broadcast today. So I have the distinct honor and privilege of hosting today's episode. So let's get right into it. Club 1040, it is more than a name, it is a vision. Club 1040, what is that? A club is a group of like-minded people who surround a common purpose or goal. What is our common purpose or goal? That is the 1040 window. If you remember from school, the earth is divided between latitude and longitude lines. And so we have the 10th parallel north and the 40th parallel north. And if you take that around the globe, that covers North Africa, India, and Asia. Half the world's population lives in that window, over 4 billion people, but 86% of them are Hindus, Buddhists, and Muslims, and will be born, will live a whole life and die and never meet someone like you who actually has the faith of Jesus, actually has the gospel, the good news. And so we're changing that. We specifically focus on the 22 nations of the MENA region. It's the Middle East and North Africa. We talk about where we're working and what we do. We try to use particular verbiage so we keep everybody safe who's working in those areas. But one thing that we can be very bold about is say that what we see, our vision, in 3 words, it is a finished work. Jesus said, I've come to do the will of the one who sent me and to finish his work. Jesus was a finisher. We're going to be finishers too. If he's given us a task to do, he wants it to be completed. Well, how we do that work, how we complete the task is 3 ways. We train, mobilize, and inspire. These are the things that God has given us as the mission to reach the MENA region of the 1040 window. We train thousands of indigenous church planners and leaders. We're mobilizing 100 plus near culture missionaries by 2030. And we're here to inspire the global church to reach every unreached nation. So there is the hands-on and there is the inspiration piece. And you could see the summary of our vision for 2030. It sounds like this: training thousands of leaders, mobilizing hundreds of near culture missionaries, and inspiring dozens of church planting movements across all 22 Middle Eastern and North African nations by 2030. That's who we are. That's what we do. And if you're on this call, it's because you've been following us, you've been partnering with us, and you are the one who's making the impact in this region. The famous missionary statesman Oswald J. Smith said, everybody should go or send someone in their place. And we're honored to be your representatives to Middle East and North Africa. What we have here is our update here, and we've got some things going on in the background here. You'll have to forgive me for that. I'm sure that'll stop at some point. But Matt and Julia are overseas, and they've already had some meetings in the UK. So for the next few months, they're going to be in Egypt, Lebanon, and several other Middle East and North Africa countries throughout the entire region. So this is our monthly Q&A session. So we're always answering questions. We got a great question from one of our dear friends, Bar Bibi. We'll talk deeply about her in a minute, but also some other questions kind of came in that are kind of fun. And, myself, I'm more of a mobilizer, but I've had the pleasure of traveling to many of the places that we work in and helping mobilize missionaries to those places. So some of these questions I can't answer. One of the questions was, what's a meal that you had overseas that you still think about all the time? I've had unbelievable meals. I've had some really, really rough meals. There's when you're hungry, you put it away. I do remember my dear friends in northern Nigeria feeding me these I don't know, they were basically goat knees. They hadn't even singed off all the hair off the leg. It was rough looking, but man, it went down pretty good. It tastes pretty great. I do think about that one. Probably the craziest meal I've ever had though was our dear friend Christopher Alam hosted us for a meal in Dearborn, Michigan, actually, and it was a Lebanese delicacy. It was boiled goat head with full eyeballs and brains and meat from the jaw and everything. And so there's some crazy food out there, but the Bible says eat what's set before you. And so we certainly do that. Another question that came in was, is there a country or city that completely surprised you in a good way? It's funny. We have such a close view into the region of the Middle East, North Africa, and sometimes you lose the context that people think about. You think Middle East, people think desert, camels, dry, arid, but there's many portions that are quite lush and green and beautiful. We're going to talk a lot about Lebanon today. Lebanon is right there on the Mediterranean. It's got mountains and beautiful lush valleys, and incredible produce is produced from there. And so I remember going to Lebanon for the first time and just being shocked at the natural beauty. I thought Middle East, I thought one thing, and I got there, it was something else, let alone the people who were so incredible, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So that's enough for that. It's kind of fun talk there, but this, again, a little bit of a monthly recap here. So here last month in March, we did have the UK Spring Summit. So Go Church Manchester hosted this annual event where over 70 pastors, leaders, and team members from several countries attended for leadership training and relationships. Go Church is a global family of churches working together to reach the world with the gospel, plant and grow strong, healthy churches, and mentor and equip leaders. So, Go Church, they say we're a growing network of churches planted in different cities and nations, united by common values, leadership, and vision, which is to build strong churches, grow healthy churches, and impact the world. So Matt and Julie were able to speak into those leaders, and they continue to have a multiplied effect from the time they planted that church in the UK almost 30 years ago, and has handed it over to Alan and Claire Morton, who have now handed it over to Mark and Simone Walker on third level of leadership. Exchange Church is doing amazing. Go Church Manchester, but the network of Go Churches is growing significantly, and they have a vision to see. I believe it's 25 more churches planted by 2035, specifically from that church planting movement, which is pretty exciting. Also, last month, one of the coolest things that we did was the CLUB1040 Confidential. That was back in March 17th. And the confidential Zoom one partner actually said, this Zoom really helped me understand your ministry. And we had some of our team members come in, and they viewed it from the office. You'll see there in the picture. But in the Zoom, Matt and Julie shared insights on how current events in the Middle East are affecting the region and the work that's continuing there. And you can actually still request the link for this Zoom. If you want to hear, you'll hear from me. You'll also hear from Pastors Ilya and Nasreen in the Bekaa Valley. You'd hear from our dear friend Rafi in Beirut, and some exciting things that we can't share publicly that they're involved with. Some incredible some border crossing excitement there. And because of your generosity, we've been able to continue to mobilize near culture missionaries, and in that environment, what we want to do in the Club 1040 confidential environment is to what we do is we promote the Zoom call. We screen people who get invitations and ask for access, and then we can control who's in the call. And then once the room is locked, then we can openly share things that we can't share publicly. And it's always been a passion of Matt and Julie's Beamers to make sure that our partners and the people who are really making this thing go know what they're a part of. And it is very, very difficult when you're working in nations that have restrictions, and we have to keep them safe. We want to keep the work safe, the people we're working with safe. So we've started to facilitate these Club 1040 confidentials. There'll be times we'll be in different regions in the US. We'll be able to do those in person. We had one of those back in January, an in-person Club 1040 confidential. But this Zoom call obviously allows anyone from anywhere who's been vetted by our team to be a part of that. This last call was incredible. About 90 people joined us for it, and we were able to share some incredible updates from Egypt, some other places. So for security purposes, the recording, it's locked. It does require a passcode. If you want to, if you select to view that, you can request your personal passcode by emailing us at admin@club1040.com, or even just shoot a little message here in this live, and we'll have the team reach out to you. So that's great stuff there. Now, I mentioned that this is obviously question and answer. This is what we're here to do. We're here to answer your questions. We had an awesome question from our dear friend Barb Beebe, and we were talking about the regional conflict that obviously many of you know that that's happening, and so many places that we work are being directly affected by this. We were talking about Lebanon specifically because there's a significant number of displaced peoples there. And Barb asked the question, how are the displaced people, and are they finding refuge? And so it's an important question we want to answer well. So we thought we would show you this short clip of a report, and then I would like to let you hear from Matt himself in response to this. Go ahead and play that clip there, Madison.
The war plane, it's coming in the sky and launched a missile.
Yeah, so you heard the bombs.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
This is Beirut's waterfront, and our home to hundreds of families who've been displaced because of the war. With nowhere to go, they're living here in these flimsy, improvised tents. Many fled in the middle of the night, carrying very little with them. They're now struggling without knowing what is going to happen to them and to their country.
So again, we want to thank you for that question, Barb. And Matt's response to this is that, internally displaced peoples, IDPs, are a significant challenge that impacts many aspects of people's lives in one way or another. It's also a very complex reality full of nuances that are often missed in media coverage. Lebanon's a very small country. It's about the size of New Jersey, with a population of roughly 5 to 6 million people. So when nearly 20% of the people there are displaced, maybe 1 out of every 5 are displaced, it creates a crisis on multiple levels. However, the Lebanese people are remarkably resilient. We've observed an innate ability to turn even crisis moments into kind of a party. It's remarkable to hear stories of fond memories from times of war. For example, when young Lebanese men and women would dress to impress, knowing that they would spend the evening in a bomb shelter playing board games with their neighbors. It does not minimize the very real suffering today, but it does reflect on how decades of conflict have shaped a resilient people. So additionally, there is a deep spirit of hospitality throughout the region, and this is especially true among the Lebanese. In times of crisis, family and friends step in to help whenever they can. This becomes more challenging when many of those needing assistance have current or past links to groups involved in the conflict. Even so, the same spirit of generosity is evident in how many of the NGOs and churches, they open their doors to Shia Muslims, fully aware of the risks. Offering hospitality to people from certain groups can potentially make them a target. In the end, we know there's only one true solution. It's Jesus. A Lebanon free from the constraints imposed over the past decades by those who engaged in this ongoing conflict would reveal a vibrant people able to fully experience and express God's goodness. This would positively impact the entire region. So, while the current situation is deeply painful, many believers living through it do carry a sense of hope. We see new breakthroughs reported daily in the local media, unthinkable even a few years ago, a sign that in the midst of conflict, the most important foundational things are moving in the right directions. Not unlike an anguishing labor as a mother gives birth, there is significant risk, but what it produces is beautiful. And we call Beirut beautiful, Lebanon a fruitful field. We confess that one day the roads from Beirut to Bethlehem will be open again, and we will drive on those roads. We stand that those who believe the scriptures in Isaiah 29 that the Lebanese church has stood upon for decades, we're not moved by what we see. Instead, we are moved by God's word. But we are also comforted by the unreported glimmers of hope that we see playing out locally. These strengthen our knowing that these verses will be fulfilled, and fulfilled sooner than many thought possible. So again, thank you for the question, Barbara. I hope that gives you some insight into what's happening there. Looking ahead, we've got some great things happening in store. Obviously, continuing work in security-sensitive nations. We have in the U.S., the headquarters grand opening is coming soon that you made possible. So be on the lookout for updates of that. If you're in the Tulsa area, we're going to invite you to come out to help us celebrate opening this thing up properly and expanding our capacity. We had a generous partner enable us to use basically a detached garage that we've remodeled and made to an awesome working space. And along those lines, we're adding to the dream team. So we have several key roles that we need to fill, and we have applications going out very soon for those. You'll actually see like a mass post on places where you want to plug in. So now there's the ability to serve and on the dream team, whether you're local to the Tulsa area or not. But we want to welcome you if you are in the area, in the local area, to come out to the grand opening and see some of those opportunities. But be on the lookout for details on social media about those posts. We'll also send out some information in our newsletters. We do have some sooner region church visits. The Oklahoma region, our team that's based in the States is going to be visiting some churches. One way CLUB1040 we're accomplishing our mission, again, it's inspiring the church to make this generation the one that reaches every nation. We've got a mandate on our ministry to inspire the church to engage. We know that it is through the church, the Big C church, that the manifold wisdom of God will be made known to the world. That's the plan. Isn't it nice to know there's a plan? I know my wife always wants to know the plan. Everything goes easier in our marriage when she knows there's a plan. I know when I first heard that there is a plan to accomplish the Great Commission, I found great comfort and confidence from that. And that's why I'm here today. Well, we want to do that same thing. We want to impart that same spirit into local churches, that it is through strong churches that strong missionaries accomplish great things. And so if you know of a church or near Oklahoma that would benefit from hearing from some of what God is doing through people just like you and me, just email us at admin@club1040.com. And a very, very exciting event coming up is the Bible College in Beirut, Lebanon is about to graduate its charter class in May. This is a 2-year Bible college. They do have a first level certification, and this will be the second level certification, the full certification. And it is their first graduating class. These graduates are going to launch out of the world to train, mobilize, inspire others to be Christ followers too. That's happening in May, just next month. So some students from this class, they're actually already crossing borders and building relationships. So more Bible colleges can be built and more students can graduate and change their world. So very, very exciting stuff coming up. More to talk about, but to keep this thing nice and tight today for this question and answer, I want to talk about these prayer points that you guys can be agreeing with us about. Our strategy for 2026 is maximum influence for maximum impact. So our prayer focus for this month is advancing teams relocating to new countries. And we have some scriptural basis for these prayers. We like to pray the word around here. Please agree in prayer for clarity and unity for the Club 1040 strategy. Pray for legal standing and travel safety for teams. Again, there's things I can't share publicly on this call that it fits a lot better. There's steps being taken for legal standing in new countries that we are breaking into. And I want to use the right term there, breaking into, we're plowing new ground into. And so pray for the legal standing, the legal process. Every country we go into, it's got its own unique challenges in regard to setting up an entity to be allowed to operate in the country, if it can even be done. But if it can be done, we certainly want to utilize that. And then obviously safety for travel for the teams. Airlines like Delta have announced multiple just cancellations throughout the summer to many of the regional flights. With the conflict that's happening in the Middle East, there has been some difficulties, but we've found great favor in relatively low delays. We've had friends and partners who plan to connect with us overseas who have not been able to make it because of travel delays. So just again, pray for, as we boldly, go forward into this year, accomplishing what God's called us to do, training, mobilizing, inspiring in the Middle East and North Africa. Pray for safety for our teams. That's always something that we need to believe God for. Language acquisition for teams in training. Language acquisition is always a challenge in that, English speakers don't naturally have a bent to be able to speak Arabic. and so that's why we train near culture missionaries who understand cultures. But to be able to navigate these situations, we definitely want to be able to have language acquisition in the team. And so we've been praying for supernatural acquisition of language learning. And so again, in closing, we want to remind you, watch for the e-news that's coming out. Follow us here on social media. Keep sending your awesome questions. And, again, why I'm here is so we can keep our friends and partners connected with what's happening when much of our leadership is completely in security sensitive nations who can't just openly share things. And so we want to make sure that you know what's going on and we're able to answer your questions as best as we can over what's happening and what you're a part of. And I just want to say thank you for, if you're watching this, you've got a vested interest and probably a long time partnership with Club 1040. And if you've not, I'd encourage you just to ask the Lord, hey, is this the place I need to sow? Is this the place I need to serve? Is this the place I need to put my shoulder into the work and join what's happening? A club is a group of like-minded people. So if you're watching this, you're probably already in the club, and we want to maximize what's in you and help accomplish what God's called you to do. As we know that as we do that, the church is stronger and the manifold wisdom of God is made known to the world. And this gospel will be preached to all nations as a sign to all people. And then the end will come. So, hey, thanks again for joining us on this Facebook Live question and answer this month. And I'll be signing off for now. See ya.